What if you could lead more effectively and go home on time? Welcome to the Lightbulb. I'm Zoe Thompson, leadership and performance coach, and each week I bring you 3 practical insights from my work helping impact-driven leaders transform from reactive to intentional leadership so they can finish work on time and take guilt-free time off, creating success that feels as good as it looks. Let's jump in. Hey folks, episode 8. I've had a very long week, so forgive me if my energy is a little bit flat today, but I still wanted to get an episode out because whilst the end of the week was a slightly unexpected turn, I have been working with clients, I have been delivering workshops, and I do have 3 light bulbs for you. We'll get to it, and hopefully my energy picks up as we go. It's been a good week from a work perspective. Had some good client calls and some interesting workshops as well. So here are my 3 light bulbs that I'm taking away as a reminder for myself, and hopefully they are of value to you too. So the first one, now this is not mine. So a big shout out to the wonderful Laura, who's been a client of mine for a little while. She first mentioned this in one of our early client sessions, and it hit me straight away. I was like, that's such a good approach. And that's the 3 before me rule. And this is a great way to build your team capability without becoming the bottleneck. And I've talked about this in previous episodes in different ways around how, as helpful as we are and as supportive as we want to be, sometimes that creates a bottleneck because everybody's coming to us. So in the workshop, we were talking this week about our time audit. So I'm running a 2-year leadership program with some leaders from across the EMEA region, and they all did a 3-day time audit. And then we came together on Thursday to talk about what their findings were and discuss what was coming up for them, and also how they were going to put some changes in place to improve their time management and their energy management. And we were talking about the 3 before me. It's just such a great way to train your team to think for themselves more, to have that autonomy, to be able to make those decisions for themselves. But essentially what you're training them to do is to try and find the answers in 3 different places before they come to you. And what this does is it creates the mindset that they are escalating things to you, rather than seeing you as a peer that they can just ask the questions of because it's quick and it's easy. You don't want to be the fastest problem solver on your team. You're there to guide, you're there to support. You're not there to build a team of dependence. You want to create that self-efficacy, you want to create them the confidence for them, and you want them to be able to have that confidence in themselves and build their own resilience to find the answers before they come to you. So it's really important to just encourage this 3 before me rule. Ask the questions when they come to you. Step into the role of the coach and ask them the questions. Where have they looked for the answer? What have they explored already? What are they thinking? Are they coming to you because they need approval? Do they need you to sanction the decision and the action that they want to take? Or are they coming to you for a quick answer? Ask them the questions. And I know that you know the answer. I know that the quickest thing that you can do is to answer the question and send them on their way. What you're training them to do is to need to come to you every time they've got a question, every time they hit a bump in the road. So asking questions, where have you already looked? What did you find? What would you do if I wasn't here? What are you thinking? Talk me through your decision-making process. Will help them to build that confidence and their competence simultaneously. So this fits in really nicely with the self-determination theory, which I know some of you will have heard me talk about in previous workshops. And for those of you who are a client of mine or in the community, then those workshops are also in the resource library. So you can go back and watch those. With the self-determination theory, autonomy, competence, and relatedness. And the more we answer the questions very quickly, yes, it's a quick fix. What we do is we remove the autonomy, we remove the competence, and we remove the relatedness. We remove the opportunity for them to come up with the decisions and learn from their decision-making process and potentially their mistakes as well. We remove their ability to develop their competence and the confidence that then comes with it. And we also remove relatedness. We remove that opportunity for them to work with their team to find out the answers, to build that team belonging, to work out who's got what strengths, who's got what knowledge, who's got what skills. That's what creates a resilient and a high-performing team. So yes, it is the quick answer. It's not necessarily the best answer. If your team is coming to you for everything and you are recognizing that you're the bottleneck, have a think about how your behaviors are training them to do exactly that. And why not try the 3 before me rule to see how that goes and to see how that builds the team capability and gives you some time back too. And if you try it, I would love to hear how that goes for you. Lightbulb 2 for me this week had a really interesting conversation with a coaching session with a client, and we were talking about that addiction to stress and the addiction to was pushing for that little bit more, a little bit harder. And the client acknowledged that, actually they thrive on stress. They enjoy the challenges. They love pushing things to its limit. And then when they get close to that limit, they're setting a new limit and pushing towards that. And the image that came up for me during the session was like a balloon, and you think you can get one more breath in there. You also know that it's very close to popping. And the challenge is when we are leaders, when we're business owners, when that balloon pops because we've pushed too hard and we've pushed too far, it is not just us that it is impacted by that bursting of the balloon. So we need to be really aware of that. Yes, it's great to push your team. Yes, it's great to see what they're capable of. Yes, it's great to push for that next level of potential. You also need to ask whether or not that is sustainable. Stress can become a baseline. Sometimes that calm can feel very uncomfortable. When things slow down, that can be uncomfortable for us. If we don't have that push, if we don't have that adrenaline that comes with that pressure, then quite often we are putting things in place to create that pressure for us because that's our norm. Certainly leaders, business owners, people who have done really well often have that competitive nature, pushing, we're driving for excellence. We want that continuous improvement. We want that achievement. Not all of our team is going to feel like that. And we need to be cautious and aware of where we're pushing our people to a limit that we set for ourselves. It's not necessarily the limit that they want to set for themselves. And it's not an on or off. Some of you will have heard me talk before around it's more like a dimmer switch. If you think about bass in music, there are some tracks that work really well with a high level of bass. And there are other tracks that you turn the bass up too high and it distorts it. And it's the same for people. Different people will have a level that works for them where they are high performing. And if we turn it up too far, then they are no longer performing well, let alone performing at a high level. We need to make sure that when we are pushing our team, when we're pushing them to perform, when we're pushing them to deliver, that we check in that it is sustainable for them, not just for us. We want to make sure that we can perform under pressure, that we can perform in chaos. That's what makes us great leaders. What we don't want to do is be creating the chaos and the disruption for that pressure because we love it and we are addicted to it, because that's not fair on others. And ultimately, it's not fair on us either. The crash is always going to come, whether we choose to slow down or ultimately the body chooses for you. So this is why it's really important that, as well as being good leaders with our people, that we are effective and efficient leaders. And linking back in with that first light bulb, we want to be so efficient and so effective that we have a team that can cope without us for a week. So we can take that week off, so we can slow down, so that we can spend the time with people who are most important to us. If you can't disconnect, you're not in control. If you are on all of the time, and often people who are on all of the time is because they want to feel in control. If you can't disconnect, If you can't walk away for a week, take a holiday, you're not in control. Something to think about, and I think that might be uncomfortable for some of you to hear, because that will resonate with you and you'll recognize that actually taking time off feels boring. If calm feels uncomfortable, you need that chaos to feel alive. You're not a high performer. It's an addiction to stress. And that addiction will eventually risk the cost of everything that you've been building. So it is worth thinking about. It's worth reflecting on how much of your chaos and how much of your pressure is self-generated, because that's familiar to you and that's your comfort zone, and what the impact could be if that doesn't shift. A third light bulb, slightly lighter note. So the empty calendar trap, why leaving the space creates reactive leadership. So again, this came up in the workshop with the leadership development program. We were looking at the rhythm, we were looking at the routines, the systems that we want in place to help us to be more efficient and to be more effective. We had been talking about the AAA time framework, and we were talking about where they need to create a routine, create a structure that protects that ascend time. So the tasks that create strategic momentum. We want to make sure that we protect that time, because that's what is ultimately going to help us to be more efficient and more effective. An empty calendar doesn't mean flexibility. It means that you're not protecting those priorities. And this time of year, so recording this at the end of November, the very end of November, it's a good opportunity to look at the calendar for the following year. So when we look at January onwards at the moment, we've got a nice empty calendar as people haven't started to put meetings in there just yet. So this gives us an opportunity to look at the rhythm of how we want to work. What have we got that is going to be reoccurring, either daily, weekly, monthly, that we can put into the calendar right now, which means that that is protected. So we want to make sure that we are protecting the time for our ascend activities and for our anchor activities, so the day-to-day tasks that keep the momentum going. And we want to make sure that we are not leaving space for the avoid tasks. We want to reduce those avoid activities because they're the reactive, unproductive ones that just drain the time. There's no return on the investment of those activities. If we're waiting to see what comes in, pretty much setting ourselves up to be reactive leaders. When we block out the strategic time, and especially if we put that in at the beginning of the day, we're setting that intention first thing in the morning. Okay, these are the priority tasks I need to get done. And then you've got time. Then the rest of the day, there is more flexibility in there for the other work to come in. One of the clients this week talked about having a planning power hour on a Friday afternoon for their team to plan in the following week. So not just looking at your own flow and your own routines and schedules, but also how this fits in and aligns for the rest of your team. How do you create a flow and a rhythm that means it works really well across the team? And so if you don't have many meetings on a Friday afternoon and you want your team to focus on the week ahead, then a planning power hour where everybody sits down for that hour and plans together. What are the priorities for the following week? What needs to be done? When is it going to get done? Who needs to have meetings for conversations around them, for decisions to be made? It's a great way to set everybody up with that rhythm and have that structure in place to protect it. So we want to make sure that our energy matches the work that we've got. We don't want to have to log on in the evening to catch up. We want to make sure that the most important tasks are done every day, and ideally at the beginning of the day. And within that, we can also look at the meeting audit. So if you're looking forward or looking ahead to next year, have a think about you and your team. Where and when do those meetings need to happen? Who needs to be in those meetings? And who doesn't need to be in those meetings? The meetings for a lot of people are what consumes a lot of the time in the diaries. Now is a great opportunity to look ahead for that rhythm and flow for 2026. And look at what you need to have in place for you and for your team as well. So more ascend time, less avoid time. What can you do more of, or what do you want to do more of? What do you need to do less of to create space for that? And where might you want to approach things differently? Think about what's essential. Think about what can be deleted, delegated, or delayed. So if your calendar is empty for January, have a look through. You've got a blank canvas there. Make sure you are painting that canvas and not leaving that space there for other people to paint it. Spend a little bit of time now as we get towards the end of the year, blocking out that strategic time, looking at the rhythm and the flow that you need for your work and your priorities, and have a look at what your team need in place so that it all fits in together. Okay, so those are my 3 light bulbs for this week in good time. So I'm going to leave it there and wish you a fantastic week ahead. And I will see you next week for episode 9. And those are your 3 takeaways for this week. Before you go, ask yourself, what's my light bulb moment from this? And now that I know what I know, what will I do differently? Choose one action, however small, and commit to it. That's how overwhelmed and reactive becomes aligned and intentional. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next week on the next episode of The Lightbulb.